So a former Laker player has gone as far as to say that Bronny James should be cut from the Lakers, which is an interesting one. A very interesting one, because Bronald does earn them a lot of money. They will never cut Bronald, especially when Big Bron is there. Like, they will definitely not cut Bronny James when Bronny's dad is on the team. You know what? Maybe they want to maybe they want to just force LeBron into that retirement next year. Maybe they're just sick of all LeBron situation. They're screwed with him. They're screwed without him. And maybe they're just gonna go, you know what? We're going to bite the bullet here. We're gonna just say, you know what, Bronald, you've not been very good. Your dad is not quite playing well enough to be able to nepotism you into a roster spot still. So yeah, Bronald, unfortunately, your time with the team is up. So tell your dad he can leave too if he wants. But I don't see it going that way. That's the only way, realistically, that Bronny James is going to be cut, is if they're just completely done with LeBron. But before we get on to that, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We're doing Hoopsmiths. We're uploading 10 videos every single day. And today we're actually might be uploading 11. It might be 11 videos today. Either way, though, we're uploading a lot. If you guys could subscribe, it'd be greatly appreciated. We're trying to hit 7.4K by the end of the day. Oh, wow, we can hit 7.4K. Jesus. That is our goal. To hit 100 subscribers today. We're not going to do it, but that would be also really nice. But the player that is saying that LeBron James Jr. should not be there, a former Lakers player, and it is, obviously, LeBron has been pretty bad, and it came after, it basically, a lot of the conversation is about Quincy Olivari, and how well Quincy Olivari's been doing, and he has not played an NBA game, yet Bronny James has played in 6. He's averaging 23 points, 6 assists, and 5.3 rebounds, 1 steal a game. I still don't think he's an NBA player. And that Lakers player, by the way, is Kwame. It's Kwame. And look, Kwame Brown, I've actually listened to some of Kwame Brown stuff, and it's like, I'm a Kwame Brown truther. I'll stand by that. Like, Kwame Brown, was he a bad number one pick? Yes. Was he put in good circumstances? No. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of people that are labeled as busts, like, they're drafted high for a reason. Like, you can have any amount of reasons. Like, Kwame had to go to whatever the hell the Wizards was, with, like, basically just being bullied by the roster, or by players, by Jordan. You've got, just trying to think, like, Darko Milicic. The guy didn't really like the sport of like, he liked basketball, but he came over to Detroit where he didn't speak English, didn't have any friends, was 18 years old, put in an apartment by himself, and then he freaking drank himself out of the league. Like, you never know what's gonna happen when you don't speak the language and go to a different country, and like, different people deal with that in different ways. Greg Oden got injured. Anthony Bennett is somebody who always worked his ass off, but he was always one of the best players around, and just mentally couldn't deal with no longer being one of the best players. Like, nobody ever knows what the reason for what a bust is. Like, people bust for a lot of reasons, but Kwame lasted enough time in the league. Either way, though, he has said, we've got a kid who does not deserve his job. Why can't they just cut Bronny and bring Quincy to help the Lakers? They just got their ass whooped by 25. And it's funny. It's like Gilbert Arenas talking about on the podcast, praised Oliveri's journey. He's earned a job. When he got put onto the Lakers Summer League team, there was no roster spots. Arena said he ended up making the preseason team. He played well, but because there were no spots, they had to cut somebody. However, Brown seems adamant that Bronny was taking up a spot the players deserve more. That's the problem. It should have been a spot. It shouldn't have been guaranteed for Bronny. Bronny should have been cut by now, and he shouldn't have to be gracious and grateful for shit. It's a competition, and I agree with that. Like, I fully agree with that statement. And I've always said there was a way of LeBron James getting Bronny and having that moment where it didn't screw up somebody else's chance. And that's the thing where it's like, we've heard about it, where it's like, Bronny, it's tough for him to just go and say, I'm going to go back to the G League, because he's not on a two-way contract. He has an official roster spot. So it's hard for him to, like, go down there, and it becomes more awkward in going up and down when you're not on that two-way type of deal where you don't have to play certain G League games. But what should have happened was Bronny should have went undrafted. He shouldn't have got the 4-year guaranteed deal for $8 million. He should have been put on the Lakers Summer League team. And I do think he was bad in Summer League. He was not bad enough in Summer League that it would have looked horrendous giving him an Exhibit 10 deal. Like, we've seen guys that aren't great get, like, not get chances, but like get put in a position where maybe get put into G League. Like, we saw Zaire Wade in the G League. We've seen plenty of guys in the G League that don't belong in the G League over the years, but no one ever cared about that. That he should have, like, he did enough in Summer League that you could justify. Not that he deserved an Exhibit 10 contract, but there was a justification there, being like, okay, he had one good Summer League game. Let's just give him an Exhibit 10 contract. Let's just have him play in preseason. And then he had that one preseason game against the Warriors, which Quincy was way better in, but even though he was awful in the other ones, it justified a two-way deal. And what should have happened is that he should have gone from undrafted to Summer League to Exhibit 10 to two-way, and then for the first game of the season, call him up off the two-way, have the moment, and then he's right back down to the G League, where he would continue to not be good enough for the G League, would fade into obscurity at the end of the year. LeBron still had his moment. Bronny still had his moment. He still got to live his dream as an NBA player, but we all don't have to lie about him being an NBA player. That's the reality of a situation. If that happens, we're not still talking about the Bronny situation. We're not. Like, he's only playing home games, and he's not actually G League player. He's an actual NBA player, and all of this stuff when it comes to Bronny James, all the conversation around him, all the conversation about him not being good enough for the G League, that kind of stops. Like, if he goes up in that way and he's just not good enough for the G League, then it's like, okay, he got the chance. He played with his dad. Should he have stayed at USC? I don't think so, because I don't think even by the end of 4 years he would have been a good player at USC. But he could have just kind of faded into obscurity. At the end of his two-way deal, he could have just said, you know what, this isn't for me. As Bronny's, nobody that's made goes overseas. Especially when you're at Bronny's level and you go overseas and you're not going to like a EuroLeague team. You're not going to a EuroLeague or Euro Cup team. You're not going to a Champions League team. Like, you're going to a third tier in Spain team. And it's just, if you're Bronny living in the luxury he's living, you don't want to do that. And it's probably a situation where it's like, you know what, Bronny packs it in, starts a podcast or starts streaming video games, and all's well that ends well. Like, it's a great moment. He gave it a go. Wasn't good enough. It's done. But now he's on a 4-year guaranteed deal. Nobody knows what's happening. The team is hiding him. By the looks of things, either being overly cautious with an injury. Like, people are accusing him of faking an injury, and I don't want to go that far. I'll say they're being overly cautious because they don't want the guy to play. They don't want him to leave LA. The guy's turned into the literal mascot for the Los Angeles Lakers, there to sell jerseys. He could have still sold jerseys on a two-way if he just played that one game, but his whole circus could have stopped. And I stand by it that Kwame is right about this. Like there are guys that have earned the job, and Bronny James has taken it. And I understand, like, look, in life, people will have earned jobs, and nepotism will get people in the door. But, like, sports is very different. Sports is very, 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 very different. And it is the one time where it really should be a meritocracy. Look, we've seen teams when they're, like, down real bad, sign nepotism players. Like, people talk about Thanasis. Like, man, Thanasis was like a borderline G League all-star. Thanasis was unbelievable in Panathinaikos. He was a guy who could play, who was a good NBA level defender. Garbage offensive player. But you could put Thanasis in for 5 minutes at any stage in an NBA game. He could play good defense, and he'd hold his own. Like Thanasis wasn't, there were a lot worse players in the NBA than Thanasis. But obviously, still, if it wasn't for Giannis, he wouldn't have his spot. But what we have never seen is a player as poor as Bronny get nepotismed into the NBA. Like, we've seen players that otherwise wouldn't be in the NBA make it. But these are guys that, like, if they weren't in the NBA, would be EuroLeague guys, would be, like, elite G League guys. I think this is the first time we've seen a guy not good enough for the G League make an NBA roster, and that's obviously why it's a bigger story. And also, it's LeBron. People don't like LeBron for whatever reasons. And you know what? Based on everything we've seen this season, justified. Like, if you dislike LeBron for this situation, or dislike how LeBron's handled this situation, justified. Because as someone who is a LeBron fan, I'm not going to defend him for this. And to be fair, I think Kwame's right kind of pushing it, because we've seen the actual NBA media still to this day. To be fair, not really to this day, but we saw him the entire summer talking about Bronny like he was actually an NBA player, which he's not.